Hails and welcome to Rauta's Reviews. This time we have a dual review with a band from United States of America. Drawn and Quartered is quite an old band, almost 30 years of age by now, and there's a couple of reissues I want to talk to you about. These ones are the albums number 2 and 3, and they would be here Extermination Revelry, as well as Return of the Black Death. These are early 2000s albums and as such are not exactly the freshest take on the band. Nonetheless, music is always timeless, so let's take a look at these beautiful CDs before we delve more into the world of Drawn and Quartered. Those of you who have no idea what is this name all about, it's about medieval execution and, well, torture methods. In one way, you can imagine a person put into ropes, tied up, and then drawn into 4 different directions by horses. And as you know, horses have quite a lot of power. So when all these horses go into different direction, well, limbs will pop up, and the person in question tied into those ropes and horses will, well, die. That's anyway the story I have heard about the name. I don't know if there is more detail to that, so let your imagination run wild. As you can see, these are pretty basic CD releases, quite old school ways with those thanks lists and all that stuff. Lyrics included, and quite colorful cover images and, well, the style here is indeed death metal. Now, I'm kind of about to say this is old school, but this is not really the 1990s. And now I feel like I'm about to break this CD case here. So let's see if with the use of tools I can remove the jewel case without causing more damage. Sometimes these are so goddamn tight that it just pops up while breaking pieces of plastic. This is how the band looked like back in the days. So as you can see, these are quite old ones indeed. This is the newer album from 2004. Shall my memory work correctly? Here's the lineup back in the days. Here's the information about it and lyrics, of course, for your reading pleasure, and more about the lineups with that particular photo or photos as well. That's pretty much of it. So they look kind of a classic in terms of how CDs were back in the days. I mean, obviously things have not changed that much, but, you know, a little bit anyway. So, as you can see, this band, technically speaking, actually celebrates its 30th anniversary if you count the previous iteration, Plague Bearer, to be part of this continuum. But then again, Drawn and Quartered as such was more or less founded in 1994, and it was 1996 when the first demo cut out, and 1999 when the first album came out. So been long time in the business, long time in the making, and so far the band has put quite a few albums. Not exactly your Cannibal Corpse kind of a pace with album every couple of years, but still not exactly one of those bands that never got to do anything. So they have been active here and there, and 2021 marked the spot for the latest album. But we're here going to talk about their 2003 and 2004 albums. Extermination Revelry came out as a second album in 2003, and I could describe it as a kind of an immolation type of death metal. I mean, it's kind of a curly, it's not straightforward, it's dark, and it's kind of a sinister. So there's a lot of similarities with, well, immolation more or less, earlier, later ones, with the music. This is not as technical nor as curly and hard to grasp, nor as brutal as, you know, bands such as Nile or Origin and the like. But nonetheless, this is way more complicated than your kind of basic Obituary and D-side, falling between that. And I guess that's one of the reasons why this band never got too much audiences or too many people following the band, because, I mean, once you go for either kind of extremities, like this really brutal ways or technical ways or all that stuff, it might be so extreme that it actually, welcomes people in, kind of like a summoning ritual. Or if you go for more, say, smoother, kind of streamlined versions of death metal, that is more straightforward into the game, that is also a way to approach it. But when you go for immolation or incantation for that matter, kind of a death metal, which in my opinion Drawn and Quartered more or less is, it gets kind of complicated. You're not exactly the most extreme metal band, but then again, you're not that streamlined or straight to the point kind of stuff either. So it gets harder. The second album is, in my opinion, rather good example of what bands such as Immolation and Incantation did already in the 90s, and as such I would say Drawn and Quartered is especially for the same kind of audience appealing. They do their stuff well. It's not overly technical, but it's definitely more, say, complex than just, simple riffs here and there. There are faster parts, there's slow parts, and there are lots of mid-tempo parts. That, then again, done with rather dark and even somewhat brutal ways. Not maybe as brutal as, more brutal kind of death metal, but still not exactly something easygoing and nice metal either. So it's definitely pure American death metal with a touch of brutality included. However, Extermination Revelry is not the best nor the worst by the band. I mean, there are albums when it just went way worse, and also albums which then again work better, which is exactly the reason why I would talk you about the third album, which I have here once again, called Return of the Black Death. Only out like 1 year after that one. This 40 minutes of an album is actually more honed and polished version of what the band was with the second album. It seems like the songwriting is just more interesting, while same time maintaining the very same idea. I mean, they are not style-wise, that is, too different from each other, not even production-wise. It's not the best production out there, but it's pretty solid for this kind of stuff. And you have those dark, kind of a basic, classic growly vocals to support the music. So everything here is exactly the same, except that the third album is so much better than the second one. So it's like a clear evolution, which actually happened rather quickly, because after all, you have to remember these came like 1 year apart. And in my opinion, by 2004, the band really stepped up, only to fall a little bit more later on. So this has been a band with ups and downs. Later on, it hasn't even stopped. So there are bumps when the band goes down and it comes up again. But Return of the Black Death is no doubt one of the better ones, maybe even the best one by Drawn and Quartered. Now, if you like one of these albums, you're kind of bound to like the other as well. There is just a little bit of quality difference, if you will. But I would say both are roughly, more or less, of course, because they're the same band, same kind of stuff. So you're going to like them both, or you're not going to like either of them. That's pretty much what I'm guessing here. Now, if you have to pick only one, because you need to have one to start with, go for Return of the Black Death. And if you then again need more, it's always good idea to go back in the discography as well as forward and see what's happening right there. You will find links provided in the description box, so click for more information and music samples, and then you can decide whether or not to step up with the band and go abroad. Whatever. Anyway, thanks for checking out the band and this review.